Right, Councillor Mike.
I'm just a little bit concerned if, again, I make the point that if we're going to embark on a massive intensification, it's important that we do it well and that we have standards across the board and that we enforce those standards. That doesn't necessarily mean that the ideal way to develop Auckland is to go for the lowest common denominator, generic Building Act standards which relate to the whole of the country. This is Auckland. This is quite unique. It's unique when it suits the government, but not in other ways. But I think that we need to retain what we've had in the notified plan, and particularly as these things relate not just to sustainability, but in Section 5, well-being and for health and safety of people and communities. And I think that does require us to talk very, very carefully about not just going ahead and developing and intensifying and sprawling, but doing it as carefully as possible.
Good, thank you. Right, now I want to, I think if we can go from D, E, F, go through G, H and I, get through to the end of the precincts, and then we'll arrive at J rather, which is about minimum dwelling size. So I think that looks like a good little lump for us to keep on chewing away at.
Okay, in terms of G, which relates to Key Park Precinct, as we've discussed previously, the panel has removed framework plans from precinct plans. The consequence for the Key Park Precinct is that some of the additional height that was enabled in sub-precinct A has been deleted. Because it's not a large area of that precinct plan, and there is the ability for the applicant, any applicant, to go for a restricted discretionary activity to exceed height in that area, we don't believe that's a great issue, and so staff are recommending we accept that. It is a different situation for Wynyard Precinct, whereby the removal of the framework plan, the panel has removed the granular and fairly hard-won GFAs and heights that came out of the Environment Court decision, and put a blanket height limit across the whole of Wynyard Quarter. There is really no reasons given why they've done that. It's probably more to do with the unpicking of the framework plan, that they have ended up with the incorrect diagrams in the proposed plan, but we can't presume that they did that it was an error. So we are recommending you reject all of the provisions in the Wynyard Quarter Precinct Plan which relate to height and site intensity, and they are set out in the maps and attached to your agenda. On page 419, I do need to point out that there's been I want to say drafting, because I'm that old, I can remember when maps are drafted, but the computer depiction of the map on 419 does have a slight error, because it's the hashing has overlaid another area. So we have put into the revised recommendation that we need to fix that particular plan. But it is really important, if we are going to see that mixed-use development down at Wynyard Point with different height limits and not just all one flat height limit, that we do reject the recommendations of the panel with this precinct and put back the height and the floor area intensity maps that have gone through that Environment Court process.
I'm happy to move that, Mr. Mayor.
Right, I'm going to get to movers and seconders soon, because we need to basically line all these recommendations up.
And then the last one is the Queen Street Valley Precinct. We've talked earlier yesterday about the removal of the pre-1940 demolition control precinct from Karangahipi Road, and that was acceptable in the eyes of the staff because a historic heritage area was placed on top of Karangahipi Road instead. But what the panel has done is removed the pre-1940 building demolition control from the Queen Street Valley precinct. The reasons for giving it is that they have given they say it's similar to the pre-1944 overlay and there was not sufficient robust evidence. That is incorrect because the Queen Street Valley precinct, the pre-1940 building demolition control is the result of survey work that was undertaken by the former Auckland City, put through a plan change process. It has been tested. It is an important control to make sure that the removal of the remaining pre-1940 buildings down the Queen Street Valley are not demolished with some kind of assessment to ensure that the right action is being taken. And officers are recommending that we reject that recommendation to delete that control and reinstate the provisions that were in the notified version of the plan.
Right. Okay, now councillors, perhaps haven't heard that collectively. Do I have a mover and a seconder for D?
Which is that one?
I'm happy to kind of move the
Yeah, yep. You want to move what?
I'm happy to move that group.
That group, okay.
Second.
Right, is there a second for that group? Councillor Linda.
I don't know.
Are you, but you're not wanting
Which
to
group?
support
Which group?
E,
So,
Yeah.
are you?
It's the one, sorry.
So you will support D and F through to
Yep.
I, right? And Linda, I presume
It's
will
the
do
win,
that.
basically the Wynyard Quarter group.
Is there a mover and a seconder to E, which is standards relating to
Is the
building work?
problematic one with the universal access
Yes, I
issue?
get that, but I'm asking, is there a mover and a seconder?
I'll move an amendment that rejects
Just hang
universal
on.
access.
Oh, yes, I'm not doing that
Wait.
one.
We'll move it to second. Good try,
You want to move and second?
good try, Kathy.
Right, thank you.
Good
Okay.
try.
So if it fails, then we will,
This is a bad way to do this.
well, it's,
That's the way
in
we
effect,
do
you're
Everybody's
moving a
happy?
direct
Everybody's
negative.
Yeah.
And so I can't
democracy
accept
is
that, and
compass.
so on the basis that this fails, then, I mean, everyone gets what you're trying to achieve.
All right.
And so if you don't want to support the general thrust of E, vote against it, and then we will
Mr. Chairman,
construct.
I asked if you could remove the universal access issue from, there's two bits in there, and I want to remove that to do them separately.
Just vote separately.
So you want to.
So the first bit's about
So you
control
want
admission
to
to
do
daylight,
E1
to
separately?
dwellings, and the second is universal access. And I would like universal access taken out and put separately.
Yeah. Okay, so you want an A and a B?
Yes.
Right, okay.
An A, 1B.
Okay, so we have 1A, the city centre zone included standards to control admission of daylight to dwellings. And 1B, city centre zone including universal access to residential buildings, something like that.
Mr. Chairman, I wonder whether we could ask the officers, without putting them on the spot, because I've got quite a bit of sympathy with the issue of universal access, but can Mrs. Perrott give us some indication of the amount of work that that is potentially going to require? Or
So in terms of if the governing body decided to reject the recommendation of the panel to delete universal access rules to residential buildings in the city centre, the work that we would need to do is to come up with the reasons. The alternative solution would be probably largely what our case was before the independent hearings panel, and so with the section 32. So it would not be a considerable amount of work.
It's all there already.
All right. Okay, look, I think we've had enough or sufficient discussion on these ones here. So we will just go through them bit by bit. So D is moved and seconded. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, passed. E, we will go go back,
1A.
get rid of that, I can't see it. Oh, right, here it is, E1. I'll put that, yes, so remember we've split, we've split,
Yeah.
okay, so we have got,
Full admission of daylight to dwellings.
we have one, we have got admission to daylight, and secondly, universal access. They're two,
Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. All right.
that's okay, I'm sure they can read it.
Yeah, but
Right, so,
Doing a division
councillor
on
Mike,
this?
you got that?
They're addressed in the building code, aren't they?
Why is it double?
Hang on.
No, no, you and I did
Right, have you read that?
one, that is two.
We're gonna put them separately.
Well, Mr Mayor, we're just
Yes.
having a discussion with my colleague here.
Yes.
The way it's been moved up there, they're two moved and seconded motions, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So,
Are you okay with
no,
that?
no, not by us.
Yeah, yeah, by us.
The second
yes.
part, what we're voting on now is from councillors Webb's,
No.
oh,
And just so if you want, if you want the additional provisions, you vote against this.
well, you can't
Could
vote
the word
against
not be
it.
reject?
Yes, we can, and if we reject
The direct.
E1, then it will be back to the officers to come back to us with the appropriate reasoning.
Can I just
Okay.
ask a quick question?
Yes.
So, this taken out of the unitary plan, but it's addressed in the building code.
You know,
So it's not taking away these provisions, it's just addressed in the building code. That's what that says, doesn't it?
That's a question?
So the panel has the panel has taken the general approach that issues that they believe are dealt with in the building code should not be also addressed in the unitary plan.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, very
So it is in the building
They're
code.
trying not to duplicate everything everywhere.
Okay. I don't think there's anything more that could be said.
Argue this.
Right, so I'm going to put that. All those in favour say
One or E2?
yes, we're taking E1.
So E1's
E1
daylight.
separate. So as you read it in front of you, we're going to move E1 first. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against?
No.
It's one on the voices, and I'll move secondly.
What- Can you read out what
Mate,
you're
it's very
putting?
confusing up
There's
there.
there's
some
a whole
glasses.
raft of things that I can't even see.
Very
Well, you need some
difficult. No, no, it's
No,
difficult.
Just tell me what you just put, because I didn't vote. So I
Okay,
didn't know what it was.
just keep breathing. Right. Now, what we have just moved and passed on the voices, but we can do it again, councillors, because, no,
No, you can't do that, hang
You
on.
can't. Standing orders
Oh,
allows
there's
a
a
member to ask a
revolutionary
question if
air
they
in
don't
the-
understand what they're
in the
voting for, and I
chamber.
did that.
Mr Chairman, it's in the papers.
just, now, councillor Cathy, you can hear the outcry here. And so what you have just voted on, and it was a clear vote for, was to accept the recommendations of the Independent Hearings Panel in relation to E1, and you asked me to split this, so I did. Deleting standards relating to building work and internal design matters addressed in the building code, universal access to residential
I didn't know we were
buildings.
voting for that, so I
Point of
didn't
order,
vote. I'd like
Mr.
the vote
Chairman.
taken again, please.
Point of order, before you
division.
took the vote, I asked by division, and
By division.
I asked before
Oh.
the vote.
Councillor, I never heard that.
No,
By
I'll
division.
start shouting
Been
a bit
very
louder.
quiet.
Yeah, she's already been taken.
Did you actually do
no,
that?
Yes, yes, Mr. Chairman, I said
Did
by
anyone
division.
around her hear that?
Yeah, I admit that she did score
You
a
did,
division.
and you didn't bring it to my attention?
Well, I thought you
Well,
know,
I
well,
thought-
it's not for me to bring it to your
I
attention,
didn't,
Mr.
we
Chair.
certainly didn't want
By
to.
division.
Well, it's
trifle with the
clearly
chair.
an oversight. And being a generous chair, I'm happy
And a
to
generous
have this
colleague.
by way of division. So we will do it again, councillors. I'm sure this is going to be okay. Okay, let's have it.
You're not willing
Okay,
to speak.
councillors, you're voting on AE1 as you see it on the screen.
Yep.
Your worship.
4.
Councillor Nye,
Aye.
councillor Brewer,
4.
councillor Casey.
No.
Councillor Cashmore,
Yes.
councillor Clow,
No,
councillor Cooper. Yes. Councillor Darby,
Against.
councillor Fletcher,
Against.
Deputy Mayor Hulse,
No.
councillor Crum,
Or
councillor Lee,
No.
councillor Penrose, Councillor Quacks,
For.
Councillor Stewart,
For.
Councillor Sir John Walker, Councillor Wayne Walker,
Against.
Councillor Watson,
No.
Councillor Webster,
Yes.
Councillor Wood.
Yes.
Okay, that's carried 8 to 12. Okay,